The Secret of the Misty Mansion. Part 1. Welcome to Mystic Echoes. Tonight, we begin a journey through shadows and secrets to a place hidden from the light where ancient whispers await. Join us as we uncover the secret of the Misty Mansion. Klara held a letter in her hands, feeling the weight of its mystery. Sent by a lawyer, it bore news of an inheritance, an ancient mansion in a distant town, bequeathed by a relative she'd never met. The letter's closing words haunted her. Once entered, beware of the mist. The phrase felt like an omen, lingering in her mind, but it also sparked something, a deep, inescapable curiosity. The next morning, Klara packed her bags, feeling both drawn and repelled by the mansion she was about to claim. She told herself she would merely look, satisfy her curiosity, and leave. But some hidden part of her knew this journey would change everything. Journey to the mansion. As Klara's cab neared the town, fog crept along the road, thickening with each mile. The driver, a weathered old man, cast wary glances in the rearview mirror, as though he feared speaking. Finally, he broke the silence. "They call it the Misty Mansion," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "Strange things happen there. They say the walls whisper and shadows move on their own." His words seemed absurd, yet Klara sensed a truth buried beneath them. When she pressed him, he reluctantly continued, "Once, a woman moved into that house. Lived there alone, just like you. They say she disappeared, and the mansion became what it is now. The locals avoid it. Best you leave it alone." These words lingered with her as she stepped from the cab into the cold, dense fog. The mansion loomed from the mist, its cracked facade and lifeless windows looming like dark eyes watching her. A chill ran down her spine as she approached the massive iron gates, which groaned as they opened, welcoming her into a world untouched by light. Entering the mansion, details and atmosphere. Inside, silence reigned. Dust hung in the air like spectral memories, disturbed only by Klara's footsteps. The walls bore ancient portraits of stern-faced men and women, their eyes tracking her every move. She felt their presence, as though they were silently bearing witness to her arrival. Moving through the rooms, she took in the remnants of what had once been a grand estate. Velvet drapes hung in tatters, and old furniture lay abandoned under layers of dust. Shadows clung to the corners, shifting ever so slightly, as if alive. She ran her fingers over the cracked mirrors lining the hall, catching glimpses of her own reflection distorted, as though something waited just out of sight. In the study, she found a small, worn journal on a table. Its leather cover was cracked with age, and inscribed on the first page was a name, Emilia. The handwriting was delicate, elegant, hinting at a meticulous nature. Klara couldn't resist turning the pages, discovering Emilia's account of her life in the mansion. Each entry held more fear, more desperation, filled with mentions of whispers at night and footsteps she could not place. One entry read, "There is a room in the basement, a place of power. But it must never be entered. The mist protects it well." The final pages were torn, leaving her with a growing sense of dread. The first night, tension building. That night, Klara lay in a guest room, struggling to sleep. The room was suffused with an unnatural chill, and the faint scent of damp wood lingered. Shadows cast by the dim light outside her window danced across the walls, shifting as though they held secrets. Just as she was about to drift off, she heard something, a soft creaking, like the slow opening of a door. Her breath caught as footsteps sounded down the hall, light but distinct, approaching her room. Her heart pounded in her chest as the footsteps stopped just outside her door. Then, barely audible, she heard it, a whisper, so close it felt like someone was leaning over her, "Klara." She froze, her heart hammering, but the silence returned, pressing against her. She knew she couldn't simply ignore it. Grabbing her flashlight, she rose and opened the door, stepping into the mist-filled hallway. The fog seemed to thicken around her, swirling at her feet as she moved cautiously down the corridor, following the whisper. The library, Unsettling Discovery. Her search led her back to the study, where she resumed her reading of Amelia's journal. Amelia had written of nights spent listening to voices that came from nowhere, of shadows that gathered at her door. She described something hidden within the walls, something that wanted her. Klara read, captivated yet horrified, until a detail caught her attention. Amelia mentioned an old bookshelf that hid a door. Clara's gaze fell on a large, dusty shelf in the corner. Heart pounding, she approached it, noticing how it seemed just slightly askew. She tugged at it, feeling the weight shift, and slowly pulled it aside to reveal a narrow door, its wood weathered and splintered. The door's handle was icy to the touch as she opened it, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. Cold air wafted up from below, carrying the scent of earth and a metallic tang that made her stomach turn. Descent into the basement, increasing horror. With each step, the air grew heavier, as if something didn't want her there. Shadows stretched along the walls, twisting and writhing. Her flashlight flickered, casting fleeting glimpses of strange markings on the damp stone walls. The further she descended, the colder it became, until her breath was visible in short, frightened puffs. At the bottom, Klara found herself in a cramped, windowless room. Strange symbols were carved into the floor, surrounded by melted candles and scattered, rotting wood fragments. She couldn't shake the feeling that these marks held a dark purpose, something beyond her understanding. Then she heard it again, the whisper, louder this time, echoing through the darkness. Her name, Klara. It was as though the walls themselves were calling to her. The voice grew louder, filling the room, twisting around her, until it became a low, guttural sound, as if coming from deep within the earth. Her heart raced, every instinct screaming at her to run, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. The mist began to creep in through unseen cracks, swirling around her, and she felt a cold, invisible hand brush her shoulder. She gasped, spinning around, but there was no one there. Only the fog, thick and silent, closing in on her. Escaping the basement. Desperate to escape, Klara backed toward the stairs, feeling her way in the darkness. The voice continued to call her name, now layered with other voices, whispers overlapping and merging until they were a cacophony of terror. She stumbled up the stairs, heart racing, feeling the mist clawing at her ankles, trying to pull her back. Reaching the top, she slammed the hidden door shut, gasping for breath. The mansion's silence returned, but her mind was racing with fear and unanswered questions. What was the mist? What had Amelia discovered? And why did it feel as if the mansion itself wanted her to stay? What dark forces lie within the Misty Mansion? Will Klara uncover the truth, or will she become just another lost soul within its walls? Subscribe to Mystic Echoes to hear the conclusion in part 2 of The Secret of the Misty Mansion.